Jim, thanks so much for joining us. Excited to have you on.
Yeah, thank you, Gary.
All right, first question for me is I want to talk about your time at Liverpool.
Yeah.
I mean, as such between the education of becoming a pro and then at such a time where the club was flying, it was probably the last time Liverpool, apart from now, were in the ascendancy, were a real force. And we hear so much about the boot room. What was it like from a young player's perspective?
Do you know what? When they sold me in 1990, they never recovered. They haven't won the league since then. So, listen, when I went, there weren't many lads that went from Northern Ireland to Liverpool. So for me going, it was a huge event. It was huge here too. But it was surreal. One week I'm watching Match of the Day. I'm watching Hansen. I'm watching McMahon. I'm watching Whelan, Dalglish. And the next week I'm cleaning their dirty kit off the floor. You know, it was an incredible experience from the moment I walked in. From the moment I walked in, you could feel that winning mentality, the history. We trained it. We met at the ground. We got a bus to Melwood. Everybody travelled together. There was no us and them scenarios. But what I witnessed on a day-to-day basis was top-class pros training with intensity. There was no secret. They trained with intensity. It was match day. And they did that 4 or 5 times a week. And they trained an hour and a half every day. Just good players, top players, playing at the head of their game every day. And I remember first week, lesson learned first week, Friday, getting ready for the game on the Saturday, A-team game on the Saturday. And I just happened, running around, walked in, and he was chatting away, how are you settling in? Yeah, I'm grand, I'm good. And I didn't know what to call him. He says, you call me Ronnie. And I went, okay, Ronnie. And he said, here's a tip for you. He says, be better than you were the day before. He says, and work off that, no matter where you go, what happens to you, be better than you were the day before. He says, and that mentality of pushing yourself every single day. He says, train hard. Whatever happens on a Saturday is a bonus for you. But every day is about training and perfecting your skills so that when you do walk onto the park, I hear so many things since then and books you read. That was me at 16 years of age. And it was everything I dreamed it would be. Even preparation, mental preparation, going to Anfield, going to Liverpool. I had a certain skill set, right, that, you know, that's perhaps suited the club because I was a schoolboy international and didn't go anywhere. And it happened to be Liverpool. And they saw something in me that gave me the confidence and also provided a platform for me to go and play. Even at 16, I realized that I had this set of skills. I could pass the ball, right? And they saw that. And what it emphasized to me was all the hard work prior to leaving Northern Ireland, prior to leaving Belfast, the hours and hours, and you know this, the hours and hours under a lamppost, the hours and hours against a brick wall, constantly trying to perfect your first touch, constantly trying to perfect your receiving skills, your passing skills, came to that head at 16 years of age when I walked through Shanky Gates and into Liverpool. It was just an incredible apprenticeship for me, living every day with top-class pros, working their socks off every single day.
Really interesting, that article I was telling you about Irish News, where I didn't know you were that close to breaking. You were on the bench at the Charity Shield. And you thought Dalglish was going to give you... That's a brilliant story.
Yeah, he honestly at that time, right? I was spoiled. I had the Mobies, Steve Staunton's was emerging, Gary Ablett's, McManamans, younger players coming through. You know, Tony Cousins just emerged as well. Who else was there? Meg Marsh was there. Nicky Tanner was playing. Stevie Harkness was playing. Jan Mulvey was drifting in. You know, there were other players that had to come in and get games. So I was playing every week. I was playing with really good players. And with really good players, the game's easy. And at Anfield in particular, teams were coming and it was a case of chasing the tango. They couldn't get near us. And at that time, again, the game was so clear to me. It was just, you know, I had pictures after pictures and things, you know, we prided ourselves in never giving the ball away. So when I was training every day with the first team, and I was loving it, and I was just, oh, this is the next step. And I remember going in. We played particularly well on the Tuesday night, and on the Friday I get the nod. Roy Evans had said to me, "Listen, the gaffer wants to speak to you. Go and see him." And I thought, oh, happy days. This is it. How am I going to contact my mom and dad? How am I going to contact my mates? You know, playing Man City. I think it was Man City away or whatever it was. And I walked in. Kenny's just taking off his boots. And he says, all right, son. And I went, yeah. He says, things are going well. And yeah, he says, that's good. He says, yeah, we've just sold you. What? And he says, no, do you know where Oxford is? I went, where? He says, Oxford United, we've accepted the bid and you're going to Oxford United. I went, no. You're going to tell me I'm actually going to play, or I'm going to, no, you're out the door. Now, he was very kind, very generous in his comments, but he just said, no, it's time for you to go and be a player. It's time for you to, everything you've learned here, you can't play in our reserves anymore. Go and be a professional footballer. And off I went. I remember leaving Anfield that day with my black bin bags and all my worldly possessions in it and driving to Oxford. I cried from the moment I left Liverpool till I went to Oxford, and then realised once I got there, this is the start of a new adventure, and it's the start. All the fantastic work that had been done at Liverpool, I didn't want it to go to waste. I wanted to be a pro footballer, even more determined if that was possible to have a career in the game.
And then when you came back and played that match the day before Southampton, and then the story about, was it Evans and Moran were waiting for you after the match?
Yeah,
well,
class. Mm. I played for Oxford United in a replay at Ellen Road. We beat them 3-2. I happened to score the winner, and Alan Ball had watched the game. 15 minutes. He said he never even watched extra time. 15 minutes of the game, and then he left. And on the Wednesday and on the Thursday, I was on my way to Southampton to sign, and they were playing Liverpool, ironically, on the Monday night live on Sky. Alan Ball then throws me in the game. Letiz scores this unbelievable hat-trick, snowing. I'm walking in. Ronnie Whelan, all of them were brilliant with me, absolutely brilliant. Players were so gracious. Go to the bottom of the steps up the Dale, and Ronnie and Roy are there. And they waited and they shook my hands, and they just said, listen, well done, fantastic, delighted for you. And they didn't take losing well. They hated losing. The old Moneyball one, they hated losing more than they enjoyed winning. And they waited, and I just thought it was so typical of them, so gracious of them. Didn't have to do it. Went out of the way to do it, and it was brilliant, and I loved it, and I was so grateful for it. Very, very humbling experience.
Yeah, let's talk about Alan Ball, because he's a figure that so much respect, legendary figure, but you don't hear a lot of stories about him as a manager. What was he like?
He was infectious, right? He had this unbelievable passion for the game, and that was relayed every day in training. Listen, he was ideal for me as a midfield player. He was an unbelievable player, even then. He'd get involved in the rondos and the circles, never give it away. Half a touch, if that's possible. He was so good even then. Again, pictures all the time. So a lot of his drills were specifically around midfield drills. And for me, because the emphasis at that club, and the only emphasis in that club, was how we were going to get Letiz the ball in the final third, where he was causing havoc. And he causes havoc from 35 yards out because he had this incredible shooting range and passing range, and everything was geared around trying to get Matt the ball and in vital areas. So for me, it was an education. Listen, he had another side to him where if things weren't going so well, he used to throw the old World Cup medal out at you, and I played with Beckenbauer and I played with Pele. Oh, well done. Did he do that? We didn't. So what's relevant there? Please, you're a wonderful player. I get that, but it ain't going to do me any good, because I need help here. And staying in the Premier League was the only thing really on the club's mind and on us as players. So he did have another side to him. He could be quite an angry little man at times too. But all in all, I enjoyed playing with him. His training sessions were different, and they were thought provoking, and there was a lot of movement and a lot of thinking in them, and I enjoyed them. I really did, and he made me a better player.
On that, the other side to him, probably would be synonymous with Graeme Souness. Like, that's, you hear about that former player mentality that struggled to connect to players. But what was your experience working with him?
I only had a year with him, and again, as a midfield player, he helped my game enormously. He said little things to me that made me think more about the game, about being a midfield pivot, about at some stage the ball come through the centre of the park, stand still. Sometimes just stand still there, let the game go. You'll get the ball if you're clever enough. And he was right. Even in the helter skelter of the Premier League, moments when you stand still and the ball comes to you, things like, you know, so when a manager speaks to you, and sometimes they speak to you just to be one to evoke a reaction, another just as a flatterer. When he spoke to me, there was practical sense to it. So in the games, it happened. So it was reality-based learning. We talk about that. So I was learning off an incredibly, you know, talented midfield player, and his insight into the game again helped me enormously. He had his moments with players. He used to want to strangle the Tiz, but understood what a fantastic player he was, and an absolute asset to the club in terms of survival in the Premier League. But he found it difficult at times to deal with his in that sort of regard, because he saw this incredible talent, and his thoughts was always about his work ethic. I remember I was left out. He handed me the armband and then left me out. So what was the point in that? So we were going through a sticky spell, and he put two fullbacks in the centre of the park. Two fullbacks, two dogs, and okay, tackling wasn't really in my contract. I get that. So we needed a few results. So away we went. So 3 or 4 games in, we win the games. So I'm sitting there fuming, delighted, but fuming. I'm not playing. So I was still coming on, but fuming. So Terry Cooper, the legendary Terry Cooper, left back, England, right, Leeds. He's his assistant, and he says to me, "I wouldn't be going near the gaffer at the minute. Don't be going. He's in a good place." I went, "Is he?" Well, I'm delighted. I'm going in to see him. Wouldn't do it. Don't do it. Nah, don't. Leave him. I said, no chance. I'm going in to see him. So I walked in, and Terry's like, "Jim, don't go near him. Don't." So I walked in, and he's in the weights room, and he was big in the weights, right? And I couldn't see him. So I walked in, and so he's in the far corner, shirts off, and all I could see, right, was his biceps and the biggest scar. Obviously, he had the triple, and they were bulging, and the scar was bulging, and his arms, and I went, he said, "You want to see me?" I went, "Not today, Gaffer, I'll see you tomorrow." I ran out of the weights room. I thought, nah, no. But I enjoyed him, and funny enough, our relationship was further strengthened when he was working in Qatar, and I was working in Qatar, and we used to enjoy meals out. And listen, he was tremendous stories, tremendous character, fantastic influence on me again personally.
Brilliant. Let's talk about management. We were just, before we started recording, we were talking about Michael O'Neill and the speed of the championship. How difficult is it whenever the games are coming 2 games a week? How do you schedule training around that? How do you just, I mean, in comparison to the Premier League, how do you pull that off?
Good planning, obviously. Good planning, good recovery strategies, making sure the players are well taken care of. Like the difference, obviously, Michael's difference is he had so much time preparing for games in between the international games. In the championship, you don't have that much time for recovery. So you're working on a game-to-game basis, and it's very difficult to then analyze your games. You know, you've got a very short window, and it's very difficult then to analyze individual players. You probably got to break them into units. And a lot of the work for players would be to go away and look at it themselves. That's why analysts and I are so, you know, it's like this fad in the game. They're priceless. Don't get me wrong, they're priceless. But it's the preparation is key, and it's momentum. If you're on a winning streak, the momentum seems to carry. If you're on a losing streak, it can be depressing. Joe Royle used to say, coach players when they're winning, because they don't care. Coach them when they're winning. If they're losing games, they don't want to be near there's so much negativity, and because there's so much social media and speculation and coverage now, players get caught up in that. And if a negative mindset sets in, it can spread like wildfire, and you have to. So there's a fine balance, but Megan will have found that different because of the hectic lifestyle and the hectic schedules. You have to have good people in place, and you have a very strong program in order to, again, get yourself ready for each game as it comes along. It's totally different.
You've been involved on Northern Ireland, you were saying there, Northern Ireland squads, and watching them on close, and I've been on the bench over the past 15 odd years. When I used to go watch Northern Ireland, whenever you were playing, nowhere near a European Championships or a World Cup. What's this current squad got that those teams didn't?
I think you're being very hard. Listen, we should have qualified in way back. I think it was 06. I think with that group, we were all playing in the Premier League, and we wasted. That was a talented bunch of players that wasted an incredible opportunity. But you're right. The rest of after that, it was rubbish. What they got? I think they have a manager who's very meticulous in his planning. I think they have a manager who looks at the opposition, weighs up the opposition's strengths and weaknesses, and then makes the players believe that they can win the game with their strengths. And he's just convinced the players that when they step on the park, I remember thinking they can win games. I remember thinking during that fantastic run-in for the Euros, we're going to win the game. We're going to win the game. You know, and very few times, I think, over my time, I've actually, even when I was playing, I wasn't sure. Obviously, I was going in to win the game, of course, but I wasn't sure if I was going to win the game. I was convinced we were going to win games. I was convinced, and more importantly, so were the players. So it's easy putting up a PowerPoint presentation and telling you how you're going to win, and this is where they're going, this is their strengths, and this is... Players have managed the game. Their game management have been superb. And that's through practice and practice. That's through a 2-year campaign, World Cup campaign, where they didn't win a game. They were unfortunate not to win games, but they were on a losing streak. I think I pointed out that Chris Brunt had been in the squad for how many years and hadn't been in a winning Northern Ireland team for something like 2.5 years. Hadn't won a game for Northern Ireland for 2.5 years, which is incredible. So you're turning up for international games not expecting to win. These guys are turning up the international games expecting to win, or at least putting themselves in a position to win, to compete in a major tournament, and then to lose out narrowly, to go to another major tournament, and now to be competitive again for a major tournament. He's done an incredible job.
If you were to say that your team, then that team in the 90s missed a player, was it? Do you think it was down that you missed the component on the pitch, off the pitch there? Because a lot of what you're saying there is, it was the way you were managed and the mentality.
Listen, a bit of both. Had we a Healy, we had a natural goal scorer. We didn't have a natural goal scorer. We had more workman-like goal scorers, if you like. We didn't create that many chances, if we're honest. You know, and the chances that we did create, would a Healy have converted them? Probably, because he has proved that he could have. You know, you're always missing one or two. You know, we had exceptional players in Michael Hughes and Gillespie. Philip Gray was around, you know, so we had good players. And Dowie was around. Lomas, Lennon, you know, Taggart, we good players, you know, might have been, the game is so much more advanced now. There wasn't an awful lot of analysis, you know, on opposition. There wasn't an awful lot of detail. I think the level of detail has certainly increased and given players potentially more confidence. But at the end of the day, the game doesn't really change in terms of you personally. You cross the white line, it's your decision making. No matter what a manager does or says before a game, it's still your mentality when you walk across that white line. Once you cross that way, you become the decision maker. You get caught up in the emotion again. And what defines you as a player is the right decisions you make. The more right decisions you make on the football pitch, the higher the level you'll play. So we just didn't have enough about us, I think, just to get over the line. And that was a disappointment. And I don't know, because we had so many really good players. These guys now have been together. The nucleus of that team has been together. There was a real continuity in his selections, because he hasn't got great depth. We never have had great depth. So his decision making, he was quite lucky in terms of like his selection. You know, let's be honest. If we don't have a Davis, or we don't have a Johnny, and maybe even a Cathcart now to a lesser extent, without being disrespectful, then we're a weaker side. Do you know, that's life with Northern Ireland. If you don't have your best 11, we potentially will struggle. And we've been fortunate in that our selection has been very, very good and consistent. And that breeds confidence, breeds trust, it breeds self-belief. And also, once you start winning games, it's so important. It builds that momentum. Momentum's crucial in football.
When you've come back and it's an opportunity to almost reverse engineer what you're seeing and what you've experienced in England and international football, and now you're trying to create that, what do you think is the biggest thing that a youth player from Northern Ireland, is it the physicality, is it the technique, what do you think is the main thing that a Northern Ireland youth player needs to take on to make it across the water?
Well, I think it's a generational thing too, because I witnessed it at Ipswich over the course of a 10-year period in terms of watching young players develop, and it's kind of a disappointment and resilience and practice, purposeful practice. I keep going on about this. I think that technically we've always produced really good players, man. You know that, Rio. We've always produced. Tactically, the games program that we've put in place here has exposed the lads to games abroad, and tactically we're more astute. We have played different systems, so they're aware of that, right? Physically, we're always going to struggle at times, right, because of the nature of the game and because of the nature of the programs that are currently designed in Northern Ireland. You'll each schedule train maybe once or twice a week with our club. What we managed to do was to create a program where they were training with us and training, with their club on top of, the games program, on top maybe of the Sunday program as well. So we created increased contact time, but it's okay doing that if it's not with quality. We've tried to create a quality program that enable these kids to have the confidence that when they walk into a club in England or Scotland, the terminology even that's being used now, in terms of coaches speak, a lot of coaches talk, a lot of it's without being again a verbal diarrhea. You know what I mean? Let's keep it simple for them. There is this, paralysis by analysis type. I'm giving these kids hopefully an insight into the academy's help, and we probably talk about that, but there's certainly the academy's help where it's, every day. It's their lack of intensity. I've seen that at Ipswich. It's kind of, you don't smell sweat. I smell sweat in academies. I smell comfort. I don't see kids who really has that desire to be a footballer now, because everything kind of way is done for them. I don't see kids come and practice, for example. I don't see, and a real practice in terms of deliberate, with thought, with a game in mind, game related, receiving skills, passing skills, shooting skills. I don't see an awful lot of that now. I don't feel that, and I don't know if it's just, again, it's generational. Everything's instant reward, instant satisfaction, instant gratification. Flipping, you go into Marxies, you get instant mashed potato, and you get instant vegetables, instant coffee. So everything's done. So where is the thought? Where is the loyalty in that? The loyalty to the game, the loyalty to practice. Who wants to really, really be, a footballer? And the foundation, I was very lucky. My apprenticeship at Liverpool gave me an insight into hard work and what that hard work could pay off.
And without the resilience and without the perseverance, you don't make it, and you don't kick it. So if the youth player, say you've got a high talent and he's different class and he's excelling, and you're thinking this is a player that can go somewhere, but they don't have that intensity and they don't have that perseverance and resilience, can you do anything in the environment or as a coach to try and get it out of them?
Well, it's again a very difficult one. The Premier League clubs, if you look at, I think 0.01% of kids entering a Premier League academy actually go on and play in their respective first teams. So really, what are they doing to try and increase the numbers? If you're spending X amount of money, millions on an academy, you want to return at some stage. So what are the so is the mentality of the club, is the thought process of the club to produce their own players through their academy? I'm sure it is. You only have to look at Will Foden, for example, at Man City. Is he going to have a career at Man City? I hope he does, because he's an exceptional talent. But how many of them? Chelsea have shown that they have good young players, and if you give them the platform to go and play, they'll go and play, and you have a manager who's going to give them that. How many managers are actually going to go on and give them, the young players, the opportunity to play games? England won a World Cup at 17s and 19s. They're good players. You win World Cups at that, but how many of them are going to go and play for their respective teams? I was at Aspire. I worked in Qatar. I saw this incredible building, incredible infrastructure. How many of them were actually going to go on and play for Qatar in the World Cup? It was built for that purpose. You know, how many really, really top players are going to go on and you know, play at the international level, at the levels that they need to be playing at. So a young boy from Northern Ireland, very difficult. You know, the program, the academy now that we've set up at Jordanstown, for the first time prior to leaving, they'll get an insight into life without mommy and daddy, for example. You know, so they're in from Sunday nights to Thursday nights. So they're asked to clean their rooms. They're asked to make their food. They're asked to clean their kitchens. They're asked to stay on top of everything. They're asked to train every day. They're asked for 2 gym sessions. They're asked for analysis sessions. So prior to leaving, it's the first time that a young boy from Northern Ireland will experience life away before actually going away. So we'll see. You know, the proof will be in the pudding, you know, and hopefully we have to affect the tip of the pyramid. At some stage, we have to affect that, you know, the quality and level of player playing at international level to replace a Johnny Evans, to replace a Steve Davis. Very difficult for us. Very, very difficult indeed.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Great stuff. That's my segment done. Jim, flew through it. Much appreciated. I'll bring on here. He's got some questions for the crowd.
Brilliant.
Jim, how you doing?
How you doing, sir?
Yeah, not too bad. Jim, so you were talking about it there about young Northern Ireland players. How is the Northern Ireland Elite Academy progressing, and what's a typical week look like for the players and the staff?
So we're back in September. We started this with UEFA, and it was fantastic. I convinced them. I hoodwinked them. I brought them to Belfast. Let's just say they had some really good nights out, and we managed to get them over the line. Typical week, Sundays, the boys report in on Sundays. The national squads train at Jordanstown, and we're all in from under 13 right up to under 16. The boys who enter the academy stay, and we train Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday afternoons. The boys are in school. There's 7 boys that have relocated to schools in the Greater Belfast area. And they all reside there, they all live there, they all stay there. We transport them to their respective schools, and we pick them up, we bring them on, they're on the pitch from 4:30 to 6:30 every day. We obviously change the sessions to strength and conditioning, a lot of tactical work. They play with their clubs Friday or Saturday, and then they're back in on the Sunday. So it's great. You know, it's a massive change for us. In terms of preparation for the best young players. Whether or not it's going to make a massive difference in the end, we hope it will. As I've just outlined, you know, we hope it does make a difference. And for me, the gauge for that is the quality of club they go to. And if they're going to Premier League clubs or Championship clubs, then we're doing okay. But again, it comes down to the individual. Nothing changes. It comes down, we'll give them this, they'll take it. It'll come down to the mental resilience and the attitude of the young individual. If he wants to be a player and he's at a club that's going to give him an opportunity, then we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. So, Jim, obviously, you talked about Qatar there. You were in Australia. Obviously, your playing career in the UK. What from your time abroad do you think has shaped yourself as a coach? What have you taken from your time abroad? Obviously, those are diverse places you've worked in and different environments. So what do you think you've used to shape yourself now as a coach today?
Do you know what? It was just the experience. It gave me huge confidence. It was a confidence thing as well. Do you know, it was, do I have the confidence to go into a group of players and be able to coach them and to be able to implement my thoughts and ideas and really, you know, myself. So I at 16 leaving Northern Ireland under security of that, first plane I'd ever been on was the flight to Liverpool. So I was used to actually throwing myself into, you know, a different environment. So I just wanted to experience it, and I was very lucky. I went to a fantastic club in Australia, Melbourne Victory, in a fantastic setup at Amy Stadium with other codes, different sports. It was just a great learning experience for me. So for me, it was being more open-minded, expanding knowledge. Met some really good people. Terry McFlynn was out there, who'd had a fantastic playing career. He's going on now to work at Sydney as a technical director, I believe. And so it was just a change in getting put, out of the comfort zone, out of that comfort zone, and seeing how other countries develop players and elite athletes. Qatar was exactly the same. Looking at their setup, starting from scratch, a blank canvas. And what they did, their knowledge sharing, they brought other fantastic elite teams to Qatar, and they were, and to be fair to the teams that travelled, very open. Here's what we do. Here's how we develop players. Here's our infrastructure, and it was again just a great learning curve for me, and all the knowledge that I attained there, I brought home with me too. So it was being open-minded and very honest. Nothing negative about it at all.
Nice. So obviously you've gone from working with pros now down to working with younger players. What challenges have you faced with, obviously going from senior players down to younger players? Has there been a challenge, or has it been a smooth transition?
No, it is a challenge because it's a different language. You have to speak with them. You have to again. It's the transference of knowledge. It's being able for them to understand exactly what you're trying to instill, and it can be very difficult because the environment these kids are working in, from the environment I came from, it's more difficult for them because they aren't used to that. They aren't used to working at that intensity. That's no disrespect to any of the clubs here. It's just the way it is. So we're trying to change that mindset around their work ethic, around their attitude to the game. That can be difficult. But again, coming from here, I understand the psychology of these kids. I know exactly what's going through their mind, albeit we're in a different era. And I touched upon this generation thing. I think there is a lackadaisicness about young players that they have to snap out of, and it's showing consistency in your message, consistency in your sessions, and consistency in terms of the levels of intensity you have to work at. And that has been a challenge for not only me, but the Jared Littles of this world, Alfie Whaley's of this world, who I know will be listening. He'll tell you exactly he faces similar problems or challenges with the ladies teams as well. So listen, we're working in a different environment, and to try and get them up to speed for the next stage of their careers. Yeah.
Young players, Jim. So obviously a lot of pressure, to sign for clubs in England or wherever. What advice would you give to young players in Ireland? Say you think they should stay at home and play Irish League or League of Ireland, or is there, obviously you went yourself. So what advice, if there's anyone listening and has players that are interested in going across the water, do you think it's a better situation for them to stay home now, or where do you stand with that?
Well, if we deal in facts, if kids are going over between the ages of 16 and 18, they're sent 2-year scholarships. We have found large percentages of kids come home at 18. Now, we can't stop them from going. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to stop a kid from going to Liverpool or Manchester United. That's just a fact. They're going to go. If we develop programs that would allow these kids or create a pathway into their respective first teams back home, learn the game, give them more, they're far more mature. They'll be in a better place. They're playing week in, week out with men, pros, who know the game and have experience, and they understand the game a little bit more. Then at 18, 19, we might find that players stick. They may stick a little bit more. We have had recent, there's been recent players who have gone across, Marseille, Gavin White, the Dallases of this world, who've all had Irish League experience and have gone on, and a lot those guys will, have played at senior international level. So there is an argument that they remain here, and there is a pathway into the respective first teams here before leaving. We can't stop the migration. The migration is going to happen. I know a lot of really good work has happened in the League of Ireland. I know that the academy setups, I know the academy leagues have definitely improved the quality of player. But again, can you stop it? I don't think you can stop it. I think that it is a natural progression for these kids that they want to go. But I think if we could develop a program here, and I'm saying that, and I'm putting a program together for lads at 16 to leave. But if there was a program here that because ultimately I want us to be successful, and I want these kids to be successful. I want them to go on and have a career in the game. Like I had a career in the game. I was very lucky to have a career, a 20-year career playing. I want them to have that same opportunity, but very difficult given the levels they have to get to and the competition now.
Yeah. Jim, we talked to Martin ONeill there a few weeks ago, and we asked him about a player that stood out that was a leader for him on the pitch, and he talked about Neil Lennon. Obviously, he had him twice as a player at Leicester, and he signed him at Celtic as well, and talked about his drive on the pitch. What player comes to mind for you if you played alongside them or you've coached to say, I want that boy in my team? Obviously Martin really spoke highly of how Neil Lennon drove teams forward. So what for you, or who for you would be stand out in your mind? I know it's a tough one, but from playing or coaching.
Playing. I think it's a difficult one to pull out because each club has an individual, don't they?
Yeah.
At a club, there's like for Martin to say Neil Lennon, I get that because I played with him. I can get that because he had this incredible inner belief. That he had an inner belief. He carried the team without having a massive. He was a quiet genius, if you like. So there are different. You look at them and they're different types. Matty Holland was the same at Ipswich. He was captain of the club. He was a great driving force. He was a level of consistency, a bit like Neil. Level of consistency, 7 out of 10. Probably every week. So there's that type, and there's the Matt Letizia types. To me, again, I always took personal responsibility. Personal responsibility for me was, can I drive people on? Can I influence people? There was always great individuals, don't get me wrong, and I get that, but no one really stands out in terms of that for me. There were just great, I had great playing teammates, but I always took personal responsibility in trying to drag things on too.
Right. What was the biggest challenge you faced, going from playing to coaching? I think that's some players obviously transition to it really well. And how did you find it for yourself?
Very difficult. Very, very difficult. That transition for me happened very quickly. Very, very quickly. I was captain of Ipswich 1 week, and then the next week I'm manager of the football club. That was huge. That was a massive transition for me, albeit I was waiting for the opportunity. I think I'd been waiting for the opportunity for the 10 years leading to retiring. And I had a particular focus on going into coaching, managing mostly, but to be given that opportunity so quickly after playing, I had a plan, I had a structure, I had a strategy for me going into the job, but it would have been more difficult for the players because, again, I'd been captain of the club. I was a social captain too with them. I got down, in the trenches with them. They all knew exactly what type of person I was. So very difficult for them. The transition from coach from player to manager was very difficult. That distance between the changing room and the manager's room may only be 12 feet, but it can be a mile away. It's very, very difficult. Very difficult. More difficult for the players because they knew me as a different person.
Aye. Jim, would you say you have a mentor or mentors that you bounce things off, or how does that work for you? It's a pretty common theme today for coaches to have mentors. Where do you stand on that?
No, I think it's important, very important, and I think there has to be an acknowledgement. See, if you don't know something, you got to be, there's no egos here. You got to park an ego. You got to pick up the phone and you got to turn around and say, right, who can I pick up? Listen, I was lucky when I went into the job. I brought along an assistant in Charlie Woods who had a long history with the club, but also a long history with Sir Bobby Robson, the late great. So if I and Charlie, you couldn't even, Charlie, if I turned around to Charlie and said, I wonder what Sir Alex would, he'd pick up the phone to Sir Alex. I said, right, Jim, have a chat with him. And I'd go, you know, what? Yeah, hello, Alex. And, but it was so difficult because for me, I could speak to Sir Bobby Robson, for example. Charlie would just pick up the phone. Bobby, have a word with Jim. He's finding this. So I had people like that I could speak to. So it was, again, a very humbling experience. And so Bobby would turn around and say, well, what do you think you would do? Or what do you want to do? And what's your desired outcome? What do you want? You know, do you want the boy in the team or you want the boy to go? Because there's two different strategies here. So I was very fortunate at that club to have that sort of people to bounce off. But a lot of trial and error. Listen, I would speak to Michael a lot, or did speak to Michael a lot. You can't get him now because he's held it's hectic his schedule. But I would bounce things off Michael, and he's been brilliant for me. And so there are other people in the game I've been able to develop relationships with. And as part of my role through our coach education, I've seen fantastic coaches come to Belfast and being able to have conversations with those guys too. So there are one or two that I would very trusted friends. So I'm again very fortunate in that. Brilliant.
What advice would you give to a young coach starting out in his journey, maybe taking courses, or a coach that's been in a while? What advice do you have for coaches that are starting out or are within the game now?
Just get on the ladder as quickly as you can. Biggest regret is making excuses not to get on my coaching ladder at a very early age. The moment I went on my coaching badges, it was like a light. It was that, light bulb moment. It just opened up the game. It was an appreciation of all the work that coaches and assistant managers had done over a long period for me. Get on the ladder. Really just start developing your own coaching styles, right? Learn as much as you can. Learn of other people. Go and watch sessions. Go and experience other football clubs. Go and travel. Just be as open-minded as you possibly can, and then develop your own style. You can be a pro licensed coach or an A licensed coach and have the badge, but it's experience. Go and make mistakes. Don't be frightened of making mistakes. Park your ego at the door. Just go and enjoy it. A lot of things that are happening now in coach education, for example, the Danish FA are looking as part of their whole appraisal system about the personality of the coach. Having a personality. I think back of the coaches that I work with, and it was their personality, it was their enthusiasm. The sessions might have been crap, but you never even thought of that. You just thought, oh, I got something today. Why? Because the coach was enthusiastic. Of course, there has to be a progression. Of course, you have to learn something from them. But there is something to be said about having that sort of personality and stamping your personality on your sessions, and having, knowledge. Knowledge is very, very important. And just be very open-minded. And even the older you get, listen, you're never too old to learn. Absolutely not. You go, and there is so much exposure now to football. You've got so many opportunities to travel. Not at the minute, of course, but you've got so many opportunities. And I find that if I pick up the phone to a club, anywhere, Timbuktu, they open their doors to you. Very, very few clubs actually shut down and don't let you in, don't allow you in and don't allow you to learn. So get out there and expose yourself to as much as you can.
Jim, if you were hiring coaches tomorrow or managers within your obviously elite academy, what traits do you look for in a coach? What's important for you?
Just that personality, knowledge, understanding of the game, understanding of progression, understanding of development of youth, having a way with how you carry yourself. How you communicate. You find that sometimes I'm speaking to coaches and their heads down, even young players, but even coaches, they're sometimes they can feel intimidated. Sometimes they can feel inhibited. Just go out there and express yourself. Have very open, honest conversations with members of staff. I run a very open door policy with us. We're working on curriculums, etc. Now we're working at, and I hate this word, this DNA thing. At the end of the day, if he's a good player, he's a good player. Why is he a good player? What's his strengths? What's his weaknesses? I get all that, of course I do, and it's important that we do have our own DNA and maybe a bespoke program. But I think it's about the attitude and the application of the coach too. Harry applies himself. I love people that are trying to improve themselves all the time.
Brilliant, Jim. So All Ireland League, obviously, it's been discussed in the media and things like that. Is it possible? Is money there? What do you think that would do for the development of players in Northern Ireland or the Republic of Ireland? How do you think, and where do you think you stand on it, or how do you think it would fit into the plans?
To be honest, it's so much clouded in mystery at the moment, right? But can Northern Ireland, can the teams of Northern Ireland sustain that or be resourced? I don't think they can.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, right, we're working off a 2-3 night a week program. That hasn't changed so much. Plus the league, they'd have to change the league format in terms of summer league, or and have to change. And so there's an awful lot still to be decided. Would it improve the quality? I'm sure it would. Of course it would. If you're dealing with that competition, you only have to look at the strengths of a Dundalk, for example. And even in my time when I was working with Magilton Rovers, you look at that side and you look how competitive they are. They're doing fantastically well because they're contacting and they're getting exposed to European football. They're centered around that. They're geared towards that. We're still not at that level, so there's still a lot to work on and still a lot to work through. Would it develop the player? Develop the player up here, I would suggest, more so than the League of Ireland, but who knows?
Yeah. All right, Jim, I'm going to pass you over to John O'Rourke. I think he's got one final question, and just to kind of close it out, but appreciate your time today. Cheers.
Thank you. Brilliant.
All right, Jim. Great stuff so far. I actually have two, maybe three questions, Jim, but one of them can be real quick. So the first one was, do you have issues with the playing styles between the elite academy and the clubs they return to? Or do you have an agreement with those clubs in relation to the style they should be playing?
No, we don't have that. We don't. At the end of the day, the clubs, we've worked with the clubs and the communication with the clubs has greatly improved. You'll probably find that they don't suggest that, but no, we don't. We don't get involved in terms of what Harry, their respective clubs set up. We don't get involved in that. We don't interfere. At the end of the day, the clubs, we're borrowing the players from the club, and they've been kind enough to do that. They're still registered for the club. What we're working on is the technical abilities of the players. We're giving them a few technical solutions they have to find out for themselves, and also we're developing the individual. So the clubs have bought into that. So it's the individual, they're talented individuals. They go in and hopefully they go and improve their respective clubs and their teams within the clubs. So we try not to stay. We stay away from that. We try and build on the individual, and hopefully the clubs benefit that. Obviously, when the kids are sold or they go across the water, all the proceeds go to the club. The compensation goes directly to the club.
Excellent. Talking a little bit earlier, you talked about Michael ONeill. Can you tell us a little bit about your time with him at Rovers, at Shamrock Rovers?
Yeah, he came and got me. There was Trevor Cooley had left, and he came and he asked me would I come down, and I said of course would. And what struck me right away was the quality of the group, and how Magil had got this group of players together and had formulated a plan to win the league and be competitive in Europe. And what I noticed was, again, the intensity in training was very high. And I recognized right away that there was a lot of good players. And what Magil was able to do was be able to transfer his thoughts and ideas to the players. And then the players go and delivered that. He was very, very good at that. And that has obviously gone through his career with Northern Ireland. So his planning was good. He structured training very well, and the players bought into it. He had a very healthy respect with the players. There was great communication with the players. There was a good feel factor within the group, and again, that carried on the results.
Excellent. So probably, and just dovetailing there with Michael obviously resigning and stepping down from the Northern Ireland team, do you feel that that was something that's a job that you would like to take? Obviously, your experience and your pathway would say that you have that experience to take over at the senior level.
Yeah, I would always love an opportunity. I didn't hide any feelings when I was asked the question a few months ago, and I never hid away from that question when I was managing at QPR or at Ipswich. I felt that at the time I wasn't experienced enough. I hadn't gone through what a manager should experience before you enter, in my opinion, before you enter into the international arena. So I was a viable candidate 8 years ago. And for the last 6 years, I've been continuous my professional development. I would suggest that my CV's improved. But in saying all that, I think the 3 candidates that have been mentioned are worthy candidates, and any one of them would be a very worthy successor. I, down the line, would love an opportunity. If it's not now and if it's later, great. What I'll do is continue my professional development and see what happens. I think whoever does get the job is walking into an environment now where the players are really leading it, right, which is great. He's got a fantastic backroom staff. Whether or not they stay is another question. But certainly there is a different mindset around the Northern Ireland setup that has been for a long, long time. And a lot of that is down to what Magilton has achieved, and he's done an incredible job.
Excellent. Last one, Jim, probably the one we ask everybody is, with all your experience now, what advice would you give to a young Jim Magilton?
I would spend more time developing my mindset around continuous professional development. At the time, you know, when you're living through, when you're 20, 21, 22, you're just enjoying the game.
Right.
I then went from being a reserve to a first team player. Loved the adulation, loved it, right? And got probably caught up in all that. And I wouldn't waste a single second in terms of trying to improve myself, both, you know, technically 4 pillars, you know, and also just being exposed to the game, traveling away, not getting caught up on beach holidays and whatever else. Yes, of course you need your downtime, but just expanding knowledge. If I'm a young coach now, I would be traveling everywhere. I would be trying to get as much information as I can and using it. It's like over a 20-year period, I was preparing for life after football in terms of coaching or management. And I was very, very fortunate to work with great coaches and great managers. And all that information was stored. Trying to get that information out, creating my own identity, you know, stamping my own personality on a club, but that was the most important thing. And I think I'm still developing that. I'm still working on that. So could I walk into a football club tomorrow and put together, here's a Jim Magilton plan? Well, I think I have. I think I can. I'm 50. Could have done it at 43 starting off. Not really. At 43, you're walking in after being a footballer, or 41, whatever it was, you know, 37, flip me what I'm talking about, 37. Did you? No. And no other profession could you walk off from being a footballer to being a manager and getting the job. In what other profession? It's bonkers. You should be sacked. The chairman should have been sacked even for offering me the job in the first place. So, but I'm very grateful. I have to say, we're very lucky to be in this fraternity, very lucky to be involved in football. And I've been very fortunate, you know, to be in it from the age of 16 to now. So I feel, you know, I'm blessed in that way.
Jim, that's fantastic. We appreciate your humbleness and your time today. We thank you for joining us. Excellent.
Top class. Thank you, Jim.
Pleasure. Listen, thank you so much. Thank you. It was great. Cheers, guys.
Appreciate it. Folks, join us this Friday. We have 2 more guests coming in.
Brilliant.
We hope to have David Healy and also Jerry Armstrong. And we'll have that information out soon. Take care. Thank you, Jim.
See you, Jim. Thank you.
Brilliant, guys. All the best.
All the best.
Trying to get off here.
Just click it off. X.